More heavy rainfall and severe weather to end the week, as well as another summer cold front bringing more heavy rainfall and potentially severe weather early next week, as well as the tropical weather update in this video, guys. Guys, I'm going to try something new here this morning. Good morning to everyone out there. I want to know, I'm reaching out to ask you, what is your favorite season and why? Is it spring with the plants blooming and thunderstorms? Is it summer with summer heat waves and hot temperatures? Is it fall with all the colorful trees and plants? Or is it the winter with cold and snowy weather? Do comment down below. I am curious to see what you guys think, what your favorite season is and why, and I'm definitely curious, and I'll be reading all of those later on today. But getting into the video, guys, like I said, we got more heavy rainfall and severe weather on the way. And the reason being is we have this kind of stationary boundary across the southeastern United States, but looking kind of up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we still have that ridge across the western United States and a broad trough across the Great Lakes region, bringing some of this cooler weather with lower humidity across portions of Quebec, even into portions there of Ontario, Canada, even into the upper Great Lakes as well, across portions there of Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, all the way over there toward upstate New York as well as we head into today. Even as we head into tomorrow, we'll start to see more of a zonal flow from the west to east across the the Pacific Northwest, the northern United States, and New England as we head here into the Friday, Saturday timeframe as well. So looking at your temperatures this afternoon, expect widespread upper 80s to mid 90s across the central southern plains once again. Some cooler temperatures up to the north into portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas, where areas there will be in the middle to upper 70s with lots of lower humidity, refreshing air up into these areas. But again, with that ridge across the west, widespread middle and upper 90s, some 100s mixed in there into California as we head into this afternoon. Looking into your Friday here to end the last Friday in August, guys, August 26th. Yeah, we still got widespread 90s across the Missouri Valley all the way down through the central and southern plains, and even some 90s mixed in up there across the mid-Atlantic as well. But again, some refreshing air across portions of the Dakotas, especially North Dakota, getting into Minnesota there, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Iowa, Michigan, and a lot of southeastern Canada underneath that influence with that upper level trough, continuing to kind of spin across southeastern Canada as we head into early this weekend. So looking kind of at the weather map here and kind of showing you what the boundaries look like here on the forecast, you can definitely see a stationary boundary like I was mentioning across the southeast, bringing more unsettled weather, more heavy rainfall across this part of the world. You can definitely see another kind of weaker cold front moving through portions of the western Great Lakes, bringing more scattered showers and storms there. But it's really the deeper south across Dixie Alley into the southeast into Florida where we really have the heavier rainfall potential as we head into this afternoon. As we move here into your Friday, though, we start to kind of peel away at the rainfall a little bit across northern Mississippi, northern Louisiana, and northern portions there of Alabama. But we do have that boundary continuing to push south and east across the Great Lakes, bringing some unsettled weather to the northeast as well. That's where we could have some severe weather. But looking across portions there of the deep south, slight risk for excessive rainfall as we move here into the afternoon and evening here today. Even some heavier rainfall possible in pockets here up into portions of western Montana, northern Idaho, and getting back up here towards the Rapid City area into South Dakota, getting into southeastern Minnesota, northeastern portions there of Wyoming with another slight risk in those areas for excessive rainfall as well as we head into later today. As we head into tomorrow, no slight risk for excessive rainfall as of now. We still have that monsoonal weather across the four corners, that stationary boundary ever so slightly moving southward toward the Gulf Coast. As we get into tomorrow as well with that marginal risk for excessive rainfall and New England, especially up toward there towards the Boston area, getting up into upstate New York, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, down through Rhode Island, Connecticut, these areas with a marginal risk for excessive rainfall as we move into your Friday as well. Also, as we move into your Friday, like I did mention, across the Great Lakes into the northeast, we have a frontal boundary moving through, and that's where we have some unsettled weather with more severe weather potential across portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into portions of western and central Massachusetts, including the Boston area, getting into portions of Connecticut, eastern New York. That's where we have that slight risk, a level 2 of 5 with the yellow shaded area there. Even the darker green up into Maine, getting back there toward the Syracuse area, into portions of northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, getting down toward New York City there with some isolated strong storms as we head into later in the day on Friday. So looking here at your weather hazards for the severe weather threat, we do have that 5 to even 15%, that marginal to slight risk of wind that could be around 60, 65 miles per hour across much of the northeast here, especially in that yellow shaded area as we head into your Friday afternoon. A lower end threat for hail, maybe some, nickel to quarter size hail, nothing that's going to be really too terribly large, but again, nickel size hail to quarter size hail is possible. And there actually is a 2% chance of a tornado or two across Vermont, New Hampshire, portions there of Massachusetts, northern Connecticut, and eastern New York. So if you live up toward Boston, up toward portions of Hartford, Connecticut, eastern New York, do be on high alert. There is a potential for an isolated weak tornado or two potentially as we head into later in the day on Friday. So timing this out for you guys, we have some scattered showers and storms that will be moving across portions like Toronto, getting back towards portions there of Montreal as we move here through Friday morning time frame, maybe a couple of storms moving through upstate New York into portions of Vermont and New Hampshire as we head into Friday morning as well. But it's really as we get into the peak daytime heating into later on Friday afternoon where we start to see these scattered supercell thunderstorms start to develop across portions of upstate New York down into northern New Jersey, back toward the New York City area, and really much of the interior northeast will be on high alert for the potential for isolated to scattered supercells that could be dropping the potential for isolated weak tornadoes, some 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts, and also that up to quarter size hail with some of these storms as well. That will continue into the evening hours before we start to see the coverage and intensity of these storms weaken as we get into the kind of the late evening hours and early overnight hours into your Saturday morning with the lessening instability as we get into the nighttime hours. But as we kind of move into the Saturday time frame here, as we get into the weekend, we do have a trough that'll be developing across the Pacific Northwest, and this will be our next weather maker, swinging its way from west to east across the country as we head through the weekend. That will continue to develop a little bit further across the central portions of the Rockies, getting down to the Central Plains with that trough continuing to kind of swing its way to the east. Meanwhile, across the Aleutian Islands, we do have a stronger trough kind of driving the weather force across portions of southern Alaska as we head into Sunday as well. So some cooler temperatures could be expected across those areas with that stronger trough into portions of southern and central Alaska as we get into late portions here of this weekend. But looking back here at the main picture here as we get into later on Saturday, we do have a frontal boundary that'll be moving through another cold front, sparking some showers and storms as we get across portions here of the central and southern plains, from the Texas Panhandle all the way up through western Oklahoma, western Kansas, and getting up there toward Nebraska, the Dakotas, maybe even into Iowa there as well. We could have some isolated stronger thunderstorms. That is possible. Maybe some 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts with the stronger storms out there. Not going to be widespread by any means, but we could have some heavy rainfall as well. That will kind of move off to the east as we get into Sunday with that cold front swinging its way a little farther to the east toward the middle Missouri Valley, the middle Mississippi Valley. During that time frame, places like Des Moines, Iowa, Kirksville, Missouri, Kansas City, all the way down toward Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and perhaps the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as we get into Sunday afternoon, with the potential for isolated stronger storms and, more importantly, some more heavy rainfall across some of these areas as we get into Sunday as well. Looking kind of at those precipitable water values, the anomalies out there where you see the green showing up, that is where we have higher moisture content within the lower and middle environment of the atmosphere, in the low to mid levels on your Saturday. That will continue to kind of deepen a little bit with the deepening trough as we get into Sunday, with that cold front becoming a little bit more established later this weekend as it pushes toward the Mississippi River, with more heavy rainfall potential from Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Iowa, all the way down here to the Red River into Texas. We could have some storms that could be producing some heavy rainfall. That will continue its trek to the east here across portions of the Ohio Valley, across the Tennessee Valley, all the way across the southeast as we head here into your Monday afternoon. And even into your Tuesday afternoon as well, across, again, New England, getting down into the mid-Atlantic and much of the southeast with some unsettled rainfall and some thunderstorms there. Maybe a couple of stronger storms, but again, organized severe weather will be kind of on the lower end of the spectrum as we kind of move into early next week, because the instability really doesn't have a chance to really grow too unstable out there. So we'll continue to watch that. But even as we get into early next week and kind of turn the page to September, we're going to see above normal temperatures expected across portions of the Pacific Northwest, the northern Rockies, and then kind of that trough across portions of Texas, southern Oklahoma, kind of continuing with the below normal temperatures there. and then this ridge kind of crashing over top of that trough here as we kind of move toward that September 3rd timeframe across the upper Midwest, across the Great Lakes, and much of the East Coast here as well during that time frame. And it's really the northern U.S. where we'll have slightly below normal precipitation. We will still have some rainfall, don't get me wrong, but I do think largely during the August 30th through the September 3rd timeframe, it'll be likely below normal, especially as you get up here into northern Minnesota, the Arrowhead of Minnesota, the North Woods of Wisconsin, and then getting back into portions there of the eastern Dakotas. Meanwhile, above normal precipitation is likely favored across much of west central Texas, extending over across portions of the southeast as we get through September 3rd. Looking a little bit farther out, that first full week of September going all the way through September 7th, that pattern will be remaining intact with widespread heat across the western United States with above normal temperatures remaining there. Still that kind of troughiness with a little bit of the active jet stream across the southern United States, providing near normal to even slightly below normal temperatures from Texas all the way to the Ohio Valley during this period as well. And again, above normal precipitation is favored largely across portions here of I-10 and getting all the way across portions here of the Gulf Coast as we get here into that first full week of September, with below normal precipitation favored across the upper Midwest, the northern plains, getting over towards the western New England region as well. There could be a little bit of an active period across Washington state there in the Pacific Northwest, with that trough from Alaska starting to dig a little bit closer towards British Columbia, towards the Pacific Northwest coast there, bringing some potential for precipitation as we get into that first full week of September as well. Turning your attention to the tropics, we have two areas we're watching. The National Hurricane Center has highlighted these areas as a 20% chance of development in both these areas for the next 2 to 5 days across portions here. First off, in the Caribbean, mainly south of the Greater Antilles, but really right over the central and eastern Caribbean here. And then another area way off here, just off the coast of Africa, moving across the very open waters of the southern Atlantic Ocean. This will be a while till it gets toward the Windward Islands, but we'll be watching both of these systems potentially developing as we head through the next several days. So looking at the satellite imagery here, we got some low-level spin starting to develop a little bit more toward the Windward Islands right now. This will be moving westward here, eventually toward the central Caribbean, over some of the warmer waters, more favorable conditions, but it is fighting some dry air right now. You don't really see too much of a convective or thunderstorm footprint really with this satellite imagery, and that's because it is fighting off some dry air. And again, we will be seeing a little bit more to go through here for the storm to really kind of get its act together potentially, and that's why it has kind of a little bit of a lower probability of developing, is because it is really fighting off that dry air. And if it can get through that dry air toward the central Caribbean, it is game on potentially for a system developing towards the western Caribbean and eventually maybe the southern Gulf of Mexico. So we'll be keeping tabs on that if you live in Florida, the Gulf Coast, or the East Coast of the United States through the next several days. But looking at this more robust wave of convection across the southern Atlantic Ocean, this is our next system that also has a 20% chance of development here over the next several days. This will be pushing westward here again over the open waters for quite some time, but we'll have to watch this toward the Windward Islands as we get into next week and potentially that second week in September for the potential of a system developing more and more significantly potentially during that time frame as well. So kind of looking at this with the European ensemble, this is the EPS, and you can definitely see some robust moisture coming off of Africa as we get in toward the last couple of days here in August, going into the first few days of September. We got that wave pushing through, potentially fighting off that dry air into the central Caribbean, getting up into the southern Gulf. We'll have to watch that as we get towards that Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe to end the month of August. As we kind of move towards Wednesday and into Thursday, as we get kind of turn the page into September 1st, we really are watching here. The European ensemble is going all out on a potentially stronger system developing off the coast of Africa with less wind shear across this area as we kind of move in towards that first few days of September. Looking at the main operational European forecast model, it does have a couple systems worth noting across the southern Atlantic basin. We'll have to watch towards that first, day or so of September, and kind of, in comparison, the same time frame. The GFS has a couple of systems there, very similar territory with the European operational model as well. And remarkably, the Icon model is actually developing here not two systems, but one pretty robust system with a 996 millibar low, kind of giving you an idea of how strong some of these systems could be as we kind of move into that time frame. So there is a growing concern that it's going to get pretty active, folks, as we kind of move towards early September. And that's what we'll be here for, is to kind of keep you guys safe and to keep you guys aware of the upcoming weather events from coast to coast and all across the tropics here as we get into early September. And why this is so concerning is that the sea surface temperatures are rather warm across the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the southern Atlantic basin, where these systems look like they're kind of aligning to develop potentially into early September. This is a pretty slow hurricane season. I know there's not a lot of named storms. We're still waiting on our fourth named storm, which would be Danielle. So our next named storm, if it did develop, would be Danielle. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, the water temperatures are here. We are looking at a powder keg, guys. We are looking at a lot of warm water, so a lot of favorability for these storms to develop over the next several days. And we're just getting started here. We're really climbing that ladder toward the peak of the hurricane season here as we get into the first and second week of September. So we'll continue to watch that as we get a little bit closer. But yeah, guys, we're getting toward the peak there, and that's where we expect some more tropical weather and tropical storms and hurricanes, maybe even some major hurricanes as well. So definitely want to keep your guard up for the potential of that. So keep tabs on the weather forecast, guys. Hope everybody's staying safe from all the heavy rainfall, severe weather out there. Watch out for some of that severe weather across New England. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like the video, give it a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns. I do want to know what your guys' favorite season is and why, so definitely leave that down in the comments as well. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to all the new subscribers out there. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great Thursday, everybody, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their week, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.